Marcel Cerdan, an Algerian-born Frenchman and one of the standout talents during the golden age of boxing. He competed against not just the best middleweights of his era, but some of the best of all time, and usually came out on top. He would pass away in a plane crash on the 28th of October 1949 before his much anticipated rematch with Jake LaMotta. Cerdan at the time of his death had an insane record of 114 fights, 110 wins and 4 losses. Let's look over the mighty Cerdan's career and learn about one of the greatest middleweights of all time. Cerdan began his career in late 1934. His first fight according to BoxRec was a journeyman fighter with a record at the time of 52 wins, 77 losses and 29 draws. A daunting task to fight someone with so much experience for a debutant, yet Cerdan prevailed with a points decision. Cerdan would continue his ascendancy up the middleweight division, beating everybody in his path. In November 1938, Cerdan would challenge for the French welterweight title, a bout in which Cerdan would win on points. This would be Cerdan's 44th fight and his 44th consecutive win. His next fight, however, he wouldn't be so fortunate. He would fight a British journeyman fighter by the name of Harry Craster. Craster would be the first man to beat Cerdan, not by decision or knockout, but by disqualification, which was the beginning of an unfortunate trend in Cerdan's career. After this first loss, Cerdan would again start decimating the competition on his way to the European welterweight title. The title fight would be held in the Velodromo Vigorelli in Milan. Cerdan again would win by decision. Cerdan would only defend the European twice, however. Back in those days, title defenses were not mandatory and fighters would engage in a lot more non-title fights. In these instances, he would win them all, most by knockout, until August 1942, where he came up against Victor Boutin. In this bout, Cerdan would lose only his second fight, and once again it was by disqualification. After another disappointing loss, Cerdan would stay at welterweight for a little while longer before making the jump to middleweight. Cerdan would become beyond dominant, winning the French middleweight title by knockout in 1945 and winning the European title in 1947, defending that title twice. He would lose his title in Belgium by a points decision. He would have a rematch immediately with this man, taking revenge, winning by decision as well. Immediately after winning this rematch, Cerdan was given the chance at his first world title shot against a boxing legend, my personal 66th greatest fighter ever, the Man of Steel, Tony Zale. Zale, who had an amateur career of 95 fights, 87 wins with 50 knockouts, and eventually retired with a professional record of 87 fights, 67 wins, 18 losses and 2 draws, was a behemoth in the boxing world at this time, with many journalists and fighters saying that he was the biggest threat to the great Ray Robinson. On top of all that, he participated in one of maybe the greatest trilogy of all time against Rocky Graziano. He was going to be a gigantic challenge for Cerdan. However, Cerdan was too good, and while Zale was a product of his time, Cerdan boxed like he was from the 1990s. He would step around, switch weight distribution like Marvin Hagler would master in the 1980s. He would throw ruthless body shots and hooks while also being able to slip like a Customado acolyte and then proceed to start boxing like an accomplished amateur. He was unbelievable. The fight ended with a fuselage of punches and the complete destruction of Zale, who was unconscious while still standing. Cerdan is the new middleweight champion of the world. Cerdan would defend his title twice, winning both fights by knockout, before coming up against another Hall of Fame boxing legend, one of the best middleweights of all time, the Raging Bull Jake LaMotta. This would also be Cerdan's last fight before his death. Jake LaMotta, who is regularly described as only a brawler, is a horrible understatement. LaMotta also had terrific boxing ability, while also being the first man to beat Sugar Ray Robinson. LaMotta would throw Cerdan to the ground, however, in the first round, causing Cerdan to fall awkwardly, tearing a muscle in his left shoulder. After this round, his cornerman would ask Cerdan if he wanted to retire from the fight. Cerdan replied viciously, "I'm a fighter, not a dressmaker. If I have to fight with one hand, I will." And after 10 rounds, Cerdan would eventually retire due to the pain and the inability to throw the left. Cerdan would utter after the fight, "I win back my title or die." Sadly, the latter was correct, and while flying over Portugal, his plane would crash, and Cerdan at the age of 33 would pass away. So now for my customary rating system. Where do I personally rate Cerdan? On my middleweight rankings, he is number 5, behind Carlos Monzon and ahead of Stanley Ketchel. Monzon beat Cerdan on the best middleweights, as that was really the only division Monzon fought at, while Cerdan fought at welterweight as he was climbing up the ranks. But Monzon is very much behind Cerdan on my greatest fighters of all time list. Cerdan is also ahead of Ketchel. Ketchel was murdered at 23 and died way too early to make it higher. Similar to the story of Salvador Sanchez, but I do believe he definitely could have reached number 2 or challenged for number 1. On my greatest of all time list, however, Cerdan ranks at 23 behind the legendary Jimmy McLarnin and just ahead of the greatest bantamweight of all time, Edo Joffrey. So that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. This one came out really quick, like way quicker than the rest. If you did enjoy it, please like, subscribe, all that other customary YouTube stuff. yeah, that's it. So thank you for watching, and bye.